Hello, and today my topic is media's influence on public perception. Immigrants bring crime. Chinese people are stealing our jobs. Immigrants are hostile, and immigrants, they come in here and steal our jobs. What do these common and infamous quotes have in common? Well, all of these have the common aspect of having negative perceptions about a certain group. Well, in this case, it's immigrants and Chinese people. And this arises another question, which is, where do these negative perceptions and misconceptions come from? So, they all come from, mostly, the media. So, before I get in depth more about my topic, I would like to talk to you guys about what is media. So, media is the main means of mass communication, and it carries various forms such as television, social media, radio, and the internet, and it's found universally everywhere. And my research question today is, does media negatively influence public perception towards certain groups, affiliations, religions, etc.? And my solution to that question is yes. But I'll go more in depth about that later. And here's my first example and evidence, comes straight from the Stimuli, which is an article entitled Attitudes Toward Muslim Women in the West. And in the article, they interviewed Leila Abu Luhud, who has studied Muslim women for the past 20 years and lived in the Middle East as well. And in the article, she talks about how Westerners brand Muslim societies as patriarchal, which is kind of true, but not really. And also, she talks about how after 9/11, many Muslim men were portrayed negatively, and due to the fact that they wanted to impose the idea that Muslim women needed to be quote-unquote saved, which is simply untrue. And these ideas are also corroborated in First Lady at the time, Laura Bush's radio address, which is also media, and it just tries to justify American intervention, which is simply wrong because you're blaming it on Muslim men. And the second example that I had was American perception on the Chinese and how media influences it. And the article that I researched was China and Media, Effects on American Opinion. And in that, Rochester Institute of Technology's graduate, Laura Silver, had researched about misconceptions that Americans may have about Chinese. And a common misconception that she found was that Chinese people are quote-unquote stealing our jobs and ruining our economy, which is untrue. And she conducted a survey in which she related countries and asked people to rate them as positive, negative, or neutral. And she found a positive correlation between the countries that were rated negative and the countries that were rated negative and the negative American media towards them. And China was one of those countries. And as well as that, due to this negative media towards China that America has had, Americans have tended to discriminate against the Chinese. Second one I would like to talk to you guys about is Australian perception on Islamic peoples or Muslims and how that is influenced by media. So the article that I had researched was mass media Islam, impact on public opinion. And in that, an Australian Muslim, Muhammad Abdallah, had written that due to the fact that there is a low population of Muslim Australians in Australia, due to the fact that there are a low population of Muslims in Australia, Australians tend to rely on the media dependency theory, which states that since there is a low population of Australian Muslims, people tend to rely on the media to confirm their perceptions about Muslims. And in that, studies showed that also the negative impressions that authors wrote about Muslims, they were influencing Australian peoples. And also with that, statistics have shown that from his surveys that at least 1/3 of the survey had been influenced by these negative reports. And finally, I'd like to talk about the New Yorker's public perception on immigrants. So the article that I researched was media influence and third-person effect on perception about immigrants in the formation of the state of New York. And in that, they concluded that there's hostile media bias towards immigrants in the state of New York. And toward the state immigrants in the state of New York. And for context, I'd like to say that 1 in 5 New Yorkers are immigrants, statistics have shown, and 13% of the workforce in New York are immigrants. So this affects immigrants in their daily lives. And they concluded that the media is constructing misleading views about immigrants, which ultimately influence negatively in the people in New York. And my solution is that the media does negatively influence public perception towards other groups. And the limitations to my solution is that the media can also have a positive influence on people toward other groups, and also that there is a limited amount of evidence regarding how media influences people. And here are my sources, and thank you.
All right, so let me ask you some questions. How did you select the strategies you used to gather information or conduct your research, and were they effective?
Well, I started using research sites like Google Scholar, and I started researching about how media influences negatively toward other peoples and groups. And at first I had a hard time, but then as I was going more in depth about it, I had found out more sources, and I guess.
Okay. So can you explain your level of certainty you have about your conclusion?
I'm very certain about my conclusion because I've seen how media influences people in my daily life as well as in my research.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Uday.